Welcome, glad to have you back. This will be a slightly different video. It will be a bit more practical. Thank you for tuning in. A very simple snippet of information that is essential to the success of any business is, in our experience, surprisingly absent from common knowledge in the general population of any country. The differences between margin, profit, and return. Or to put it simply, how much do I charge? Economic theory will tell you that the price is set by the market. That may be, but unless you are selling generic services or products, there is variation in the amount the market is willing to pay. Pricing is a range that depends on added or subtracted add-ons or values. So, while the theory will tell you that the market will set the price and you should work from there, in practice, this is not the best way to plan a business, large or small. Rather, you should first look to think about what your target is for your business to achieve. But before you start dreaming about changing the world or setting a new standard, let's focus on the first thing to achieve: profit. Profit is the amount that remains from the difference between sales and costs plus expenses. Or in basic terms, money coming in minus money going out. For a business to be a business, this should always be positive. If it is not, it can still be an organization, but it is not a business. Some businesses think about profit to be a long-term goal. Some account for it to be an acceptable case, to average out several years to consider profitability. But if you're starting out, you should always aim to have profits every month. So how do you go about it? The first thing to pay attention to is that profit comes from sales, that is, from what you charge, or colloquially, from the top. This is the first hurdle we face if we don't come from a business background. When someone tells you they make 20%, what do you imagine? That they put in 100 and get 120? Or that they get 20 from every 100 they sell? That is 20 from 80. Well, most people think of the first case, and that is the wrong way to think in business, and the right way to think if you're investing. There is a very big difference between those two approaches. An investor looks for return. I put money in, get a certain percentage out of every X amount of time. A business person thinks like a salesperson. I get a cut from every sale, a percentage from the money coming in. The investment to start a business is a separate issue. If you like our content, please remember to like and subscribe to allow us to continue producing new videos. Thank you. The first case is a percentage of return or return on cost. The second is margin. Business people should always use margin. To calculate a price on margin, you simply divide the cost by 1 minus your margin percentage. As in the previous example, your cost is 80. You want to margin 20%. So 1 minus 0.2 is equal to 0.8. 80 divided by 0.8 is equal to 100. That means that you have a margin of 20% and a return of 25% on cost. Which leaves us with, what is cost? And what is the difference between cost and expenses? Cost is the amount of money required to produce or obtain your product or service. If you sell apples, what an apple costs you to buy. If you farm apples, everything you spend that is not reusable to get that apple from the tree. If you write about apples, pen and paper, or electricity, internet, and perhaps time. Expense, on the other hand, is everything else you have to pay to make your business run. Rent, gas, marketing, packaging, design. everything that is not directly required to produce your product or service. So here comes the secret sauce. Costs can be reduced. Expenses can be cut. You can negotiate and should to get better discounts, buy bulk, outsource to another country, etc. when it comes to your costs. You figure out what you can do without with your expenses. Administration, in general, is considered an expense. Okay, so now you come to the determination of price, and the second hurdle where people stumble. How do I know how much I can spend on expenses? My margin? Not if you want a business that lasts. As a rule, expenses should never exceed profit as a percentage of sales by more than 20%. The ideal is that expenses should equal profit. This is a rule of thumb, but comes very close to being a universal. So using our previous example, if costs are 80 and margin is 20%, then expenses cannot be more than 12% of sales. And you get to keep between 8 and 10%. That is called net margin, or simply net. If you need more money for your expenses, then you must increase your margin, which means that you must raise prices or you must find a way to decrease your cost. If you need to give a better price because of the market, first look at what expenses you can cut, then look at what you can do to get a better cost. Last, you should look about reducing your net. The questions of investment, returns, and the effects of having nets that exceed or fall short of our rule, well, if we get 100 likes, I'll put out another video on the subject. So make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more.